course, we've had a reaction from your party, the ANC, but you're speaking to us now as the Speaker of the National Assembly as we continue to get reaction on the passing of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. What are some of the memories that you have of him, particularly having worked with him in the National Assembly?
Thank you very much, Katie. Well, I would say Utata was, he had a way of intervening when there were challenges in the National Assembly, particularly as it relates to issues of discipline, issues of ethical conduct, issues of just when people would be rowdy, Tata would come in and make a statement to the effect that we are representatives of the people of South Africa and therefore we owe it to them to show one another mutual respect and to be respectful to the people who have given us the mandate to represent them in Parliament. That for me is one thing which has always struck me as a person, that Utata, in spite of the fact that he was a leader of a particular political party, but Utata remained a leader within the National Assembly, and I dare say even in the country. And I do know that whatever it is which may have happened in the past, wherever we come from, but he commanded a lot of respect from South Africans.
He's been described as a unifier, as you've alluded to, as you describe him. In the National Assembly, of course, the IFP not having much representation, but still being seen as a leader within that space. How do you think that influenced other political parties within the National Assembly that didn't necessarily have a big voice in terms of the number of seats that they have?
I think precisely because of him being a unifier or being perceived as a unifier by all of us, I think he commanded respect from all of us. He commanded respect even from smaller parties. And at times, as I said, even when there would be serious disagreements, remember we are different political parties who hold divergent views on a whole range of issues. But when he would take the floor, he would raise issues in a manner such that it would compel all of you to find a way of listening to one another and speak with one voice, not necessarily on the issue, but on how you conduct yourselves within that August House. That for me is what has struck me. But I think the other thing which all of us witnessed as South Africans towards the end of his life, Utata, even if you didn't know what was happening within the royalty, with the royal family in KwaZulu-Natal, even if perhaps you did not have any interest in what was happening, but for me, it just struck me how he navigated his way in trying to find a solution amongst the people within the royal family. I think I can never forget the day when he read the will of the Queen, and in such a dignified manner, you could tell that here was an old man, a veteran, who was trying to find peace and was trying to ensure that members of that royal family are united in whatever it is that would come out of that will which was written. So Tata was a unifier. So in other words, he was not just a unifier in Parliament within the National Assembly, he was also a unifier amongst members of the family, his own family.
I'm here with my Newzroom Africa politics editor, Mapisa-Nqakula. I would like to join in the conversation. I mean, you will remember that time when, of course, once again, the Zulu nation had to go through that period of grieving.
Yeah, we covered that story quite a lot. And I think, as the speaker has been mentioning, in his later years, it's clear that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi became very conscious of his legacy and how he wants to be remembered. So, with the successive deaths that we then saw playing out within the royal house of AmaZulu. He then, took quite a prominent role and almost guided the nation through what was a very tumultuous period for them. And I think that is something that he could only achieve, Audrey, because of the years that he had spent not just in politics, but particularly in Parliament.
Of course, and having been seen as someone who really was someone who, when people look at traditional rituals or customs, he was seen as someone that people could look to teach them the ways of going through that. And we saw that happening with the times of the funerals that we've seen, of course, the successions within the Zulu kingdom. I hope you're still with us. What are some of the thoughts when you look at how he handled all those situations and how that legacy can then be brought forward by those that have to fill these big shoes that he leaves?
Casey, I would say, firstly, we are politicians. And of course, we represent different constituencies in our parliament. And in the country itself, there will always be divergent views on a whole range of issues. And I think that it is important and it is incumbent upon us to ensure that in our differences, we should engage in a manner such that we exercise mutual respect, in a manner such that we are not antagonistic to one another, but we differ on the views expressed and not the enemies of our people. And I'm raising this, having worked with Mangosuthu. I had the privilege of being appointed a deputy minister, and I was deputizing him. It was a very difficult period, I can say, because remember, it was that we had just come into parliament, into government. It was the memories of some of the things which had happened prior to our democracy were very fresh in our minds. And I happened to be, I think, a third deputy minister. It was in 2002, and I worked with him. I thought it would be a very difficult situation. It was a difficult situation, yes, but he was not the cause of the difficulties which were there. It would be the officials which would play a role, which would want to remind me of where I come from and where he comes from, and that perhaps we should not be agreeing on how to move forward as we are running the department. That I would always see me, yes, as a colleague, but more as a daughter. That you are my daughter, we are here together, we have to find one another, we have to work together. And that is one thing I really appreciated. And I think he too appreciated the fact that whatever the weaknesses I may have, but I'm well brought up, and I come from a family that is very respectful to others and to authority, and therefore I too, I would address them in a manner such that he would feel that, I respect that he's an elder, I respect that he has more experience than I have, I respected that he was a leader of a political party, but of course appreciating the fact that I came from a different party from his, and therefore we would differ on a whole range of issues, but we would do that in a manner such that he would, at the end of it all, Utata, whenever we met, he knew that he was meeting a daughter, and I knew that I was talking to my father, and we would engage as such. And I think that legacy is what I would like to see. That legacy of respect. For me, respect, if you do not respect one another, if you do not show at least some semblance of respect generally as human beings, and discipline in the manner in which you conduct yourself, I mean, really, I shudder to think where the country is going to.
Quite a beautiful relationship that you had with him that you described to us. As the days leading up, I suppose, to when he'll be laid to rest, what are some of the things that you'd like to see happening within the political space and South Africa as a nation in just really exalting him for the man that he was, leading up to the days that he'll, of course, be laid to rest?
I would say so much has happened in this country. So much has happened in this country, and we were all witnesses to that. Some of us are direct victims of some of the political developments which occurred in this country. There was a time when there was violence in this country. Thousands of people died. I've just been watching now a footage of Wipadong, and I'm reminded about some of the things which happened. But my approach always, Katie, is none of us are saints. We are not saints. So much happened, but at the end of it all, there had to be reconciliation. We've had to come together and find a way of moving forward in governing our country. And I would like to say, the people of South Africa, yes, we'll always remember the things which happened, but I mean, really, you remember, you forgive, but you will not forget. And I would like to say all of us should pay homage and honor this great man and not be talking about some of the things which happened amongst ourselves. We are not saints, and none of us are saints. We are all human beings, and in the course of that, we do commit mistakes. And I think what is important for me is for a human being to be able to say, I'm sorry, and please forgive. And I seem to hear him saying this as he is talking to us at some point. And I would like all of us as South Africans to unite in our grief, to unite in burying the old man, to unite in honoring him. And I would like all the political parties to speak with one voice, because he was a man who was a towering figure in our house who could call all of us to order when things were not going well.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your reflections and, of course, taking time out to speak to us here on Newzroom Afrika with that a very beautiful message that you leave the nation of South Africa and, of course, the family of the late Prince Buthelezi.